But we begin today with Jim Jordan's Weaponization Committee subpoenaing FBI Director Christopher Wray.
That's right. The House Judiciary Chairman is calling on Wray to testify about the agency's alleged targeting of Catholic churches in Richmond, Virginia.
And there's a new letter that was released to Director Wray where Jordan is citing a document that he says reveals a chilling breach of religious organizations, and the FBI's actions, he says, have serious consequences on Americans' First Amendment rights.
Let's bring in congressional correspondent Kilmeny Ducart. She's with us has more on Jordan's subpoena and reaction on Capitol Hill. Good afternoon, Kilmeny.
John, Bianca, good to be with you. Chilling is right. That's the word that the House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan has used to describe that January 23rd memo circulated by the FBI's Richmond, Virginia field office. He's blasted off a letter to the FBI chief on Monday. Jordan writes, "We know that the FBI, relying on information derived from at least one undercover employee, sought to use local religious organizations as new avenues for tripwire and source development. The documents produced to date show how the FBI sought to enlist Catholic houses of worship as potential sources to monitor and report on their parishioners." Republican Senator Josh Hawley asked the Attorney General Merrick Garland about this in March. He's now fired off a letter at Garland demanding answers as to why he provided the Senate Judiciary Committee with false testimony. Here's what he's referencing.
The FBI field office in Richmond on the 23rd of January of this year issued a memorandum in which they advocated for, and I quote, "the exploration of new avenues for tripwire and source development against traditionalist Catholics," it's their language, "including those who favor the Latin Mass." Attorney General, are you cultivating sources and spies in Latin Mass parishes and other Catholic parishes around the country?
No, the Justice Department does not do that. It does not do investigations based on religion.
Yeah, Holly wants to know exactly how many field offices that memo went out to. And this, of course, follows outrage from several state attorneys general. In February, the FBI stated that the memo didn't meet its exacting standards, adding that the FBI is conducting its own investigation into the basis of the document. The House Judiciary Committee, they want that full unredacted memo. And of course, Holly has also called on Garland to provide that again to the committee. Now, in a separate development, John and Bianca, after long lasting, after months of public pressure, it looks like the so-called Gang of Eight, comprised of the top congressional leaders in the House and the Senate, as well as the ranking members on the Intel Committee, they're going to finally see what specific documents were found to be in possession of President Biden, former President Trump, as well as former Vice President Mike Pence. Will continue to monitor those developments.
We will be watching with great curiosity. Kilmeny Ducart live for us on Capitol Hill. Thank you, Kilmeny. Well, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg issues a new response to Jim Jordan's field hearing in New York City next week. This is what he says. Take a look. "Don't be fooled. The House GOP is coming to the safest big city in America for a political stunt. This hearing won't engage in actual efforts to increase public safety, such as supporting national gun legislation and shutting down the iron pipeline." That's in reference to illegal gun sales in New York. Now, the House Judiciary panel also says they will examine how New York City residents are suffering from Bragg's, quote, soft on crime policies. The hearing is set for Monday and comes in response to Bragg's indictment of former President Trump just last week.
Well, you know, just like Alvin Bragg, New York Attorney General Letitia James also ran on a campaign promise to get Trump. Well, the former president is expected back in Manhattan this Thursday to face some questioning at James's office. This is a civil lawsuit against Trump, and it alleges the former president and the Trump organization misled banks and others by providing them with annual financial statements that misstated the value of assets, including golf courses and hotels. Letitia James, a Democrat, is seeking $250 million and a ban on Trump doing business in New York State.
Let's welcome in now CPAC Chairman Matt Schlapp. He is also the author of The Desecrators. Also with us, political analyst Mark Halpern. Great to see you both.
Hi, guys.
Good to be here. Good afternoon.
Well, Mark, I'm sorry, Matt, let's start with Matt. Before we talk about President Trump and Letitia James and Alvin Bragg, I wanted to get your response to the FBI's alleged source development inside the Catholic Church in Richmond, Virginia, and Jim Jordan's subpoena based on that memo. What would you like to ask Christopher Wray about this?
Well, first of all, does he take his testimony in front of the Senate seriously when he answers these questions? And if he does, why doesn't he know the answers? We've had dozens and dozens of crisis pregnancy centers that literally help women who find themselves with an unexpected pregnancy or are in crisis. We've had dozens and dozens of attacks on these crisis pregnancy centers, obviously by people on the extreme pro-abortion side. And the FBI and DOJ have done next to nothing. Matter of fact, their excuse is, well, many of these attacks happen at night, so it's really hard for us to do anything to prevent them or to crack down on them. At the same time, the FBI is trying to infiltrate people who go to churches like my wife and I go to and our family goes to, because post-Dobbs, they're worried that Catholic Americans will turn to violence, domestic terrorism, at abortion clinics to try to stop abortion. This is the insanity of kind of woke dementia that's hit the swamp, which is every bit of power used to try to go after people with traditional views while they kind of overlook huge problems like an open border. They avoid big problems like the violence against Brett Kavanaugh or the violence at these pro-life crisis centers. And it's the saddest thing of all, John, is that this is why the American people have such a low opinion of their government. I think it's lower than like used car salesmen and people in the insurance business. It's low.
That's why you lean in at Mass and you say, peace be with you, and you wait for the response, Matt. If they don't say, and with your spirit, you should start being curious.
Well, it's so
If they don't
on-brand.
shake your hand, that also means that they're scared of COVID and they might be at the wrong place.
There you go.
Oh.
Yeah, Catholics, parents at school board meetings, we know how they see some folks in our community here. We want to talk, though, about these investigations. Let's talk about that. Trump, the impact into what really is, this, Mark, it's a shadow 2024 primary between DeSantis and Trump playing out. Now, speaking yesterday in Michigan, DeSantis demanded Congress rein in federal agencies. Let's play this clip.
Had kind of a trope that a lot of Republican presidents have accepted over the years, that DOJ and FBI are, quote, independent of the White House. And first of all, these people have guns. They can put you in jail. Saying they're independent means they're unaccountable. No, they are executive branch agencies that report to the elected president of the United States. And an elected executive, absolutely has to use Article 2 power to hold those agencies accountable.
So, Mark, on this issue at least, there's unity between Trump and DeSantis. Do you think it's a smart move for him to align with Trump on this issue?
Well, look, there's a lot of second guessing every time he either agrees with Donald Trump or disagrees with Donald Trump. I think probably the best rule in politics from strategists in both parties I know is say what you actually believe in. And I think Ron DeSantis right now is having trouble defining himself. He's got a lot of political problems. It's not certainly too late for him to right the ship. But there's as we get closer to the debates and then the voting, this is a moment in which, as an unannounced candidate, he's facing more doubts than he ever has from those who wish Donald Trump not be the nominee.
Mark, I texted you a headline, and we'll go to Matt as well on this question after Mark, but the headline was from Politico, and it was in reference to Donald Trump dominating the headlines, and it says it feels a lot like effing 2016. That was quoting one DeSantis source, because Donald Trump is dominating the headlines. Now, we could also point to the fact that Ron DeSantis is doing okay when it comes to fundraising. He has $80 million of his reported $110 million war chest in a state political action committee. But we think also, how much money did Jeb Bush have? And we have Donald Trump hitting DeSantis as a globetrotting guy. How much of these attacks on Ron DeSantis are landing the way Trump wants them to, from your perspective?
Well, if you look at the public and private polling, you can cite various factors, but there's no doubt there's been movement away from DeSantis and towards Trump. Fundraising, one of DeSantis's great strengths, matters less in presidential politics than it does in down ballot races. And again, I go back to right now, there's a large group in the Republican Party, voters, activists, donors, who would like a different candidate than Donald Trump. DeSantis has been the place people have parked, and the problem he has now is in getting ready to sign this very restrictive abortion bill, in some verbal missteps related to Ukraine, and in the polling. There's some real doubts being sown about whether, if you want to stop Trump, you should bet everything on Ron DeSantis, or whether you need to look for some backup plan. And that backup plan would be very deleterious to DeSantis' interest, because he wants to be the only game in town for those who don't want to vote for President Trump.
Yeah, and as much as Donald Trump is hitting Ron DeSantis in public, I'm sure you probably heard him say what we just that soundbite we just played, and thinking maybe that would make a really good attorney general, perhaps. Anyway, Mark, Matt, great to see you both. We got to run. Thanks.
Thanks, gentlemen.